What is up, everybody? Logan here again. Today I'm joined by Chantz, Ireland. He has a decent amount of following on Instagram. This man's got 20 some rental properties, I think 24 to be exact. I could be a little off on that number, but we're going to dive into a real estate video. I know I'd gotten a lot of questions about it. Real estate's something I've been into recently, but I have a very basic understanding of real estate. Like, I understand home equity loans, and I also understand like refinancing and reasons to draw home equity lines from homes. And I'm just super excited to have you on, talk about your properties, your journey, and where you are today.
Cool, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. Just kind of a quick rundown. I'm 27. I bought my first triplex when I was 21. I bought it from my dad. A few years later, I bought my second triplex, and then I actually was able to do a tax exchange into a 24-unit apartment complex that's out of state.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like a quick overview of how it happened. But I have some things pulled up here that we can look at, and this behind me is actually my first triplex, and it's just such a kind of basic. It looks kind of ghetto right here, but it when I bought it, I mean, we had to replace, I mean, all the windows, we had the roof replaced, we had tenants we had to get in and out of there, and it was one of those properties where it's like I had no clue, what I was doing. I just knew that it's something that I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to jump into, and it couldn't have come at a better time. I mean, I timed the market perfectly. I think I bought it in 2000 and God, I want to say like 15.
Wow.
And I just sold it last year. And I mean, we made a boatload of money, which was great, only because the market's on fire. And I kind of got it in a good spot.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so this is kind of it right here. Let's see if I go through. These are the after pictures. The before pictures were not very good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really on this main road right here in Marysville, which is kind of it's a pristine location. They just built a brand new casino by it, and so it um, really went up in value. Some things that I would recommend to people, and the reason this kind of interested me is I was really focused on having other people pay my living expenses for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, I can either buy a house and house hack, which is a really easy concept. You buy a house, you rent the rooms out, they pay your mortgage, you live for free, and you own the house. This one is kind of like you're a little more separated. There's 3 units, so you live in one, rent the other two out. They're going to pay your mortgage and all your bills, and then you're essentially going to live for free, and you're gonna build that equity and hopefully appreciation in the long run. Um, that's what happened, and it was the perfect thing to get into because it really opened my eyes to kind of tenant relations and how going in there at 21 and having tenants that are 45, 50,
Right.
and kind of the resentment they had towards me, and trying to like turn that into love, and you get that by maintaining the property and managing their needs kind of right away. A quick story on, I don't think I'm going to have any pictures of it, but it's this front unit right here. These windows, which you can't really see, they're all brand new, and I paid like 20 grand to have that done, which I didn't have that money back then. um, the window world came in, dude, and they just knock out the windows, place a new one in right away. This very front unit, they went into the bathroom and they took the window out, and then they came and found me and like, hey man, like we think you might need to replace this whole wall. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I go into that bathroom, and the tiles were literally falling off of the bathroom shower, and they had taped up like a Safeway bag over it,
Uh-huh.
and they had continued showering, and then that bag fell off, and water just was getting behind the wall, or behind the bag, behind the tiles, behind the wall, and had rotted this whole wall out. And I mean, I had just bought it. This was like 4 months in.
Oh.
And I mean, I had zero money. I was like, I have no clue what I'm going to do. Obviously they can't keep living like this.
Oh.
So I brought in like two or three contractors, and they all wanted like 5 to 10 grand to fix this wall. And I was like, this is insane, man. This literally turned me off to the whole thing.
Yeah. Right
And
then.
then, yeah, one day my neighbor came over and told me he was a tiler, and we're like, dude, like, you want to come look at something? And he went in there and looked, and he bid the whole job out for like 1,800 bucks. And I was like, that's the best bid I've ever got. And so I went in there, I kind of pulled everything out, and then he went in. I wish I had these listings pulled up so I could show you, but he went in and he replaced everything, and it looked great, man. It looked literally brand new. And I paid him 1,800 bucks to do so. these are also the only tenants I've ever had to evict,
Oh,
which was a whole nother story, which is terrifying because it's like I'm 21 and it's like I have to get someone in there. So it's gonna take 2 weeks. I went in there and there was like a dartboard on the wall and there was just thousands of holes around the dartboard or in the wall around the dartboard where they had missed. And it's like you guys
yeah.
are just throwing darts at my damn wall. Like what is going on? Um, and so I had to mail them. So there's like two adults, you have to mail them a letter and then you have to like post it on their door. And I went
Yeah.
up there, and of course, they're outside smoking. And so I had to hand these guys this eviction letter, and it was terrible.
Oh man.
But that's been my only issue with tenants is ones that I've inherited, and it's only been with this first building. And so as I kind of grew into other buildings, it kind of changed and got a little better.
Yeah, wow, man, that's crazy. That whole eviction thing. I've heard stories about it. I also have an uncle who's really into real estate, so he always, warns about that, but
Mhm.
very cool. He said it's, not as common as a lot of people make it seem, but when you do have to evict somebody, it's always very tough and, there's
Yeah,
it's
a lot
crazy.
of people try and make like they'll present being a landlord or being in real estate as like you're gonna get these calls at 2 or 3 in the morning and go fix toilets. And it's like my phone's on silent 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Like if they call me, I don't even like people send me voicemails and it's like I'm not gonna listen to this. Like send me a text. And it's just like they send you a text and then I go on Thumbtack, which is like this little contractor app, and you just input what's going on. They go over there and they fix it, and it's really just a done deal. I actually had my tenants in this first building for another weird maintenance request. Told me their lights had gone out, like there was an electrical problem, and I was living in the middle unit, so I went over there, and I had to like stand up on their bed, and they were watching, and I replaced the light bulb, and it turned on. And both of them looked at me like, "Oh man, like we could have totally done that." And it's just like, dude, like if and now it's like I live, 45 minutes away from this place. It's like
Yeah.
there's no way I'm gonna drive over there and do this myself. Like you gotta kind of go into this new mentality of like you're gonna have people do this work for you, and especially little things like that.
Oh,
Um,
for sure. That
yeah,
I mean,
make it happen.
that's crazy. Just something that simple. That's hilarious. So that was your first ever, so that's your triplex, the first ever property.
Yeah, this is it, man. This is the first one. Um, Let me see, it's kind of like right down here. It was my first deal, and actually, when I bought it, I paid 305 for it,
Yep.
which I mean at the time I thought was really expensive. And then I mean I just sold it for 585 like
Wow.
6 months ago, dude. So I made like literally $300,000, and I was like, this is sweet. And now it's worth 673, and it's just like, oh man, like I could have held it, but it's like this one triplex is the main reason I was able to get into my 24 unit, which we'll talk about down the road. But
Definitely.
yeah, when I first bought this, there was a duplex that went for sale down the road. It was literally 3 blocks over for 170, and
Wow.
I knew it was a good deal, and I also knew I had zero money, and I brought it up to like a few family members, and they're like, well, just focus on what you're doing. And I mean that building today is worth easily 400,000, and it's like I could have got into it with like 15 grand or 20 grand.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's frustrating because it's like I would never pay 400,000 for it. Like I wouldn't have
Yeah.
paid the guy that just bought it for 585. Never in a million years would I pay that, because his mortgage it had to be like 3,500 bucks, and his income on the building is maybe 2,900. So it's like he's just starting out net negative, and that's just
It's tough.
not where I would start. But that's
No.
just how the markets are out here, man. They're expensive. Um, but yeah, this next one. So I lived here. I started. This is going to be super interesting. I didn't think I was going to bring this up, but when I was living in the middle unit in this building, I had, I was 21. I had no money and I had nothing but time. My mortgage was covered and all my bills. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I ended up starting a motivation page. Here's me with a picture of it. I started this thing called Motivation Kings.
Yeah.
And it was just like, just one of these random Instagrams that was it's just like these motivational quotes. Um, Really no big deal. But I started it here, Oh, he doesn't have the link to it. And I started it on Facebook. And for some reason, man, like I just dove into it and it blew up on Facebook. I mean, it's got 1.2 million likes now.
Wow.
Yeah, bro. So when I started it, I mean, I started from zero, and then
Yeah.
I just figured out how to produce this content, how to blow it up. And I actually like, I think it was in the first 6 months, I was at 200,000. And I mean, I'm getting all these messages from people. I'm getting, hundreds of comments and thousands of likes on these pictures before they change this algorithm. And
Yeah.
that's when I really started reaching out to other pages and doing like share for share. Do you know the page Goalcast?
Yep. I've heard of them.
Dude,
Video.
it's got to be the biggest page in the space, and they're actually like verified now too. But at the time, they weren't as big as they are. I mean, I think they're like 10 million or something crazy.
Wow.
But these guys, they post all the videos that go like extremely viral. I mean, they're getting millions and millions of views. I don't even know how to get to it, but yeah, they're verified. And these guys, when I had like 75,000 likes on this, right? Like
Yeah.
13 million views, 1.6 million views. I mean, 55 million views. I mean, all their videos, this has 100 million, just blew up. And so they really niched down on this space. And before this happened, I think they were at like a million likes on their page. I
Yeah.
had reached out to them and I was like, hey guys, you want to do share for share? And they did. And so we were doing like shout outs, like I would shout them out and then they would shout me out. And I was getting 10,000 new followers per day when we would do that.
Jeez.
And I was like, this is insane. Like there has to be something here. And I think I was like 22 or 23 at this point, still had no money. And yeah, so I ended up reaching out to a bunch of other pages to do shout outs for.
Yeah.
And one guy reached out. It's kind of cool. These are actually motivational videos that I made. This one has 170,000 views. 5 years ago, I was like, I'm going to make one of these YouTube channels. It's going to blow up. It's going to be
Yeah.
great. They're all pretty cool too. I actually go back to them time and time again. But so I was reaching out to a bunch of pages to kind of do these shout outs. And one guy I reached out to, we did a few shout outs. We both got, a few thousand likes. It's no big deal. And then he was like, hey, would you ever be interested in selling this? And I had been working on it for like 3 years at this point. And I mean, it's a lot of work. Like people that don't have social media and try and grow it, like
Yep.
there's so much effort that goes into it. It's such a consistent time thing that you need to put in and not see results forever. So it's like there's some big value behind it. And he asked me if I'd want to sell it. And I mean, he sent me like a picture of him like holding $5,000 cash. And I was 23 and I was like, holy moly, man, I've never seen that much money in my life,
Yeah.
And I was like, it was a lot of money to me, but I also knew like it wasn't enough money for this page. It was, I think we're up at 500,000. Yeah, 500,000 likes at the time. And I was getting like 2,000 or 3,000 likes. My engagement was through the roof and it was sweet. And he's like, well, how about $10,000? And I was like, that sounds better, man. But like, there's just no way I can let it go. And so he's like, well, you give me a number. And out of nowhere, I was like, dude, I would part with this page for $18,000. And that's like the Facebook, the Instagram,
Yep. The
the
whole
YouTube,
brand.
the mailing list, like kind of the whole thing that I've built, the whole brand I would part with for 18,000. He's
Wow.
like, no, dude, there's no way I can do that. And I was like, all right, well, you know what? I'll just hold on to it. Like, just think about it. And then a few months go by and let me see if I can find it for you. I find another triplex. And I was like, dude, I like, this is a good deal. Here it is right here. So I find this building and it's a building in the front. Maybe I should pull it up on Zillow here. Sultan, Washington. It's a single family home in the front and it's another building behind it. Good thing I know where it's at. Here it is. So it's this house right here in the front.
Yeah.
And then it's this house behind it. And this one behind it it's a duplex. So it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath on the top, and then a studio on the bottom. And then this is a 3-bedroom, like 2-bath house. And it was for sale for $299. And so I was like, dude, this is a good deal. And this is way out in Sultan. So it's like 45 minutes from Marysville.
Yeah.
And I called on it and I was like, dude, like this thing, it was totally destroyed. But I was like, I know there's some money here to be made. Like, I just know there is. And I ended up buying this whole property. It'd be cool if we could street walk it, but I ended up buying this whole property for, 300,000. And it ended up working out really well. Oh, they're not even gonna have the pictures, are they? This is the back building,
Yeah.
which is kind of neat. So it's got like this little shop and a little studio and above the garage type area. Um, this is what it looks like after I fixed everything.
That looks fantastic.
Yeah, dude, I lived in both of these, man, and it was great. Literally, this is my freaking sweet van right there, dude.
Sweet.
But the story is like when I went to go buy this, I needed $15,000, and I put this thing under contract. I had no money to do it, and then this guy reaches back out. He's like, "Hey, dude, I'll do $18,000 on this page." And I was like, "No way! Like, this is a sign. This has to be something."
Right.
And oh, is my hand up in this? But oh, I can lower it. That's so funny.
Oh, it's all good.
He reaches out and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'll do $18,000." And I was like, "No way!" I think I was 20, 24, 23.
Wow.
And he sends a letter over, or it's like a contract. We both sign it. It just kind of really lists everything that we're gonna do and everything that comes with it. So it's like, we're both on the same page. I took it to a bank and got it notarized. He took it to a bank and got it notarized. Like, we tried to make it as official as possible because it's like we're trading, digital assets for real money.
Yep.
And before, I was like, dude, I'm not gonna like just transfer this over to you before I get the check and cash it. And he literally, I don't know if I would do that now, but he sent me a cashier's check in the mail, like just came in like a secured envelope, and I opened it and it was an $18,000 check. And I was like, holy shit, man, like this is crazy. And I was gonna instant deposit it on my phone, but I didn't know if it would do that. And so I brought it into the bank and I'm sitting with the guy and I was like, "Hey man, I'd like to cash this check." He's like, "Sure." And I hand it to him and he looks at it and looks at this little 23-year-old and he's like, "How'd you get this?" Like I stole a check from somebody.
Right. That's, yeah.
And so then I had to go into the whole story of like, I sold a Facebook page, and everyone is always like, "How do you sell a Facebook page?" I was like, "I don't even know if it's legal, dude, but I did it." And it like have this money. And he ended up bringing like the manager over and they were all talking about it. And
Oh, that's funny.
everything was clear. And this picture you see kind of behind me right here,
Yeah.
there is the cashier's check. The $18,000 cashier's check is actually in that picture.
Oh.
And it says 580,000 likes, Motivation Kings right here. I got it framed, and I don't know if I can show you, but it has like the stats on there. And so when I sold it, it had got 50,000 page likes in the last, this is like a monthly stat thing. So 50,000 last month. I had reached 8.5 million people in the last month, and I had 1.8 million post engagements. Like, the page was just on fire.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so I was like, dude, I'm printing this out. I'm hanging this on my wall. And I took that check and I put it down on this house, man. And on this house. So this is the front one.
Yeah. Wow.
And I put it down on this. So this is the front house and the back one. And I was like, all right, I'm going to manage that other triplex and I'm going to move into this. And I'm going to try and do some sort of, like flip or something and just see what I can do. Cause I know there's money here. I guess I paid $310. Let me see. I think I made a bunch of pictures of it, but dude, when I bought this thing, it was just a whole nother story of like a hoarder lived in the house in the front one.
Yeah.
And he was paying like $1,000 a month to live there, and it's worth like $2,200 to live there. And we had to redo everything. He moved out and we just tore it apart. We're talking like new floors, new paint, new appliances, new counters. Let's see if I have first rental rehab. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. This is me. This is me buying it. So I sold my Facebook page to buy the triplex.
Wow.
This next video is what it looked like, dude. Oh, can I see those?
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so here's the front house, and then here's the back one. So this one has the 2 bedroom, 1 bath upstairs, and then the studio downstairs. This is when, so before I show this, the guy that lived in the house was like paying me. He paid $1,000 for the first month, and then next month rolls around. It's like the 10th. I was like, hey man, what's going on? He goes, oh, I moved out. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I moved out, man. Like, just get another tenant. And I was like, all right. And so I go into the house, and this is what was left in the house. So the stairs are bare. You can
Gee.
see it very well. All this stuff. It's like, here's a bed he was sleeping on. This is everything he left. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And so the whole house, dude, it was just packed.
Just
And so I ended up getting like, you can kind of see it here, but I got like 2 or 3 large dumpsters, and we just threw everything in the dumpster, kind of cleared it out. And then this is what it looks like after. So
wow.
so
That
we went
looks
from here, and then it went, these are actually the pictures that we used to sell it. And
oh.
this thing looked like, dude, it reminded me like the inside of a pirate ship because of like all these wood ceilings and stuff. And we kept all the old lightings in there. We laid a new
Oh,
floor down.
that is spot on, man. That does look like a pirate ship.
Dude, it like when I was living there, I was like, this thing looks fucking great. Like I loved it, man. And
Wow.
it had so much character, and it just, yeah. And so it turned
Man.
out really good. And so I redid this house, and then I was like, all right, I need to redo, the studio in the back. And so we kind of go into this studio one. I don't know why it won't let me pause it. So this is kind of the back one. And then this is what the studio looked like. So it's just, ugly. And we end up tearing up the floors. Like, there's all this stuff under the floors, which is gross. And we couldn't get the linoleum off, dude. And so we had to literally rip the floor up. Here's
Ugh.
kind of putting the floor back down. And this is what it looks like after. So it's kind of
Wow.
got this like Seattle vibe to it. Very clean, generic colors, the gray and the gray.
Yep. I
And it
love
just,
that.
dude, I ended up living here. I lived in the studio, and it was fucking great. I loved it. I actually have, this is my little humble abode, dude.
Little marshmallow
It's
helmet. That's
funny. And it's like, dude,
cool.
it was cozy, man. Like, I mean, it was just, it was just me and my everything I needed. I have my fucking snowboard, and I was like, this is
Yeah,
great.
man.
I ended up renting this place out for $850 a month, little
Wow.
studio. And I mean, keep in mind, dude, I paid like 305. My payment on this whole place was like $1,600. And so this was half of my payment for just a tiny little studio.
That is awesome. Seriously.
So
Also, hit me up if you like snowboarding. I love that
yeah.
part.
I don't know if I have, oh, I do. So kind of the last one is, so the upstairs, this is going to be the upstairs of that duplex.
hmm
And so I did like this is what it looked like before. So I mean, I pulled the floors out. This thing was just kind of ugly and stinking, and you just, you like kills on the floor, you put new carpet, you paint, add new light fixtures. These aren't very good pictures, but yeah, I mean, it just looks way better after. And this is
Oh,
kind of, where I lived for a little bit. I had better pictures than this, but yeah, man. So that's kind of like the brief overview of this property, and where it gets really interesting. Okay, so see how it's one big lot, and there's the single family in the front, which is huge, like party deck, which is sweet, and this house in the back. And I was like, dude, I have to be able to like subdivide this, because this is like 15 feet apart. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up subdividing these properties and turned it into like a small condo association.
hmm
And I was able to sell the front house by itself, and then sell the back house by itself. And so by splitting these up, man, I don't even know if I can find it. I
wow.
was able to sell the front house, let me get back to it. I was able to sell this front house, man, for $305,000.
Wow.
And I paid $299 for both of them.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I ended up owning, that back property literally free and clear.
Yeah, free
And,
completely.
that thing was worth, $270,000. And I was like, this is insane. Like, how did this happen? I don't think it's going to be on here. Oh, here's some more pictures of what it looked like before, dude. Just utterly terrible.
Oh man.
Dude, like, I still actually have this ore because I thought it was cool,
Oh yeah, the ore's cool.
which is sweet.
Looks like it
Yeah,
looks like
you go
a
upstairs,
lot
dude,
of
and it's like the whole house is just like, this is what it looked like after. But
fun. Oh wow.
yeah, I couldn't even believe how bad it was. And so we ended up selling this front house for, the 305,
Yeah.
paid it off, owned that back one free and clear. Here's the after pictures again. Just night and day difference, which is sweet. This upstairs deck was my favorite part of the whole house. But yeah, so we sold this front house, 305,000. I own this free and clear, and so I mean, I'm all into this property. I've maybe sunk like 50 grand into it,
Yeah.
and now I have this $270,000 one in the back that's paid off.
Wow.
And so I ended up. This is when I was like, dude, I need to buy like an apartment building or something. And I ended up looking at a state. I took some mentorship programs, and this one went up and went pending. And I actually was able to sell this for $275,000. And
Wow.
so, I mean, after closing, I think I got a check for like 250 grand. And that's on top of the $300,000 I got from the Tri-Plex. So I put the Tri-Plex money, that first one, into a tax exchange. It was 260,000 and then 250,000 here. So I had like 500 grand. I was like, this is fucking sweet. Like, how do I do this more? And I was like, I knew that like living off that money, like this is kind of my opportunity to really do something, like do
Yeah.
something with this money and put it somewhere. And I ended up finding an out-of-state apartment complex. And to put it into perspective, here it is here.
Wow.
This building was $1.3 million for both of these,
Wow.
and it's 24 units. And I put $260,000 down. And
Okay.
so let me go back to that. Forestry. So the money, the equity that I had in this building,
Yep.
the very first building I bought when I was trying to, do the motivational page and stuff,
Yep.
I made 260,000 on this, and I put it into a tax exchange. And when you put it in, it's like 180 days to find and close on another property, or you're going to pay taxes. And it's like, I was not going to pay taxes on that money, right? So I was extremely motivated to find this. So my down payment ended up being literally $265,000 on this building.
Yeah.
And so I went from the same equity in this building with 3 units that brought in $3,000 a month to $260,000 in this building with 24 units that brought in $18,000 a month.
Wow.
Literally, it's the same amount of money, just leveraged way better, right?
Yeah, way
And I was
better.
like, this is incredible. And my payment on this house it's like $1,800, and it was bringing in 3,000. And so after you get your expenses and stuff, this thing maybe cash flowed $300, $400 max. And this one it brings in $18,000 a month, dude. My payment is $5,000, which is insane, right?
That's insane.
It's like this extra, 12 or 13 grand that I get every month. Half of it goes to expenses, and then the other half is usually cash flow. And I have something kind of pulled up here for you to look at to kind of show how I figured this out. So I'm a big believer in education on things that you are interested in. So
Oh yeah.
I was gonna put 260 grand down on this out-of-state building that I've never done before, And I was like, how am I going to do this and know that I'm not making a bad decision? Like if I rush into doing this just to not pay taxes, and then I buy a building that, you know, you can't get tenants in, or you have shitty tenants, or they don't pay rent,
Yep.
it's like, then you just blow your money. And so I ended up joining a mentorship program that was these guys that were closing on, I mean, they're doing like 100-unit buildings, and you go through this whole very extensive course, and then you have a year-long thing where you meet up weekly with someone who's done what you want to do. And it cost me $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dude, that's like a new car. Like that's so much money. And then I looked at it like, dude, that's like, I'm buying it. So the seller is paying the realtor fees, which was like 70 grand. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm just going to look at this like a realtor fee. Like you know, you pay someone every time you sell your house. And
Yep.
it's like, why don't I pay someone to help me make a better decision on the biggest building that I've ever bought in my life?
Yeah.
So the
100%.
biggest financial thing I've ever done. And I took that course. I've talked to my mentor every month now, we're talking. And this is something that they taught you that came with the course. And I mean, this one mentorship program has been, you know, the one pivotal thing that I can point to that helped me do this and feel confident in my decision. And so this is kind of the deal calculator, and you kind of look at one row at a time. So
Yep.
in the marketing package, he wanted 1.3 million. We put down 25%. Monthly income. This is what he said. So $800 a month, or 18,000 a month. Your total income is 200,000 a year. This is like the big one. So the expenses. So when you buy these buildings, it's easy to be like, oh, you know, it brings in $6,000 a month. The mortgage is 5,000, and so your cash flow is 1,000, and that's just not the case.
Right.
I mean, these are all the expenses that come with it, like these contract services, admin, insurance, legal, your taxes, which in Illinois are like 20,000 a year.
Yep.
Trash removal, management, which this is a kind of a small way to think when you're like, hey, I'm going to manage this myself. But it's like when you get into these bigger buildings and you buy them with the management fee included in the value, then it's like you're covered. And so you just need to know all these. So the expenses he had came out to 78,000 a year, which is 38% of the total income. And I took the course, and they're like, your expenses on well-performing buildings are going to be 50 to 55%. He's like, so if it's anything below 50%, you need to use that 50%. And so you can see on he's using 38%. That's why this is red. So your net operating income comes out to 123. Debt service, we got 3.75 for 25 years. So you're in cash flow 62,000. And this is a 9.3 cap, which is what he said.
Yep. Wow.
Which is great. And I was like, that sounds great, but let's be more conservative. And so we go to my projected and actual. So actual is how it's actually performing. And my expenses come out to 49%. And so they're just, you know, 10% higher, but it makes a world of difference.
Oh yeah. Wow.
And it brings the debt, you know, the cash flow to 41,000 a year, which is a 7.8 cap, which is like, well, that's not really good, but it's like, it's a real 7.8 cap. Like all these, I live in Seattle, and they're like, dude, this building's performing at, you know, a 6 cap, which is kind of the market standard, which out here it's actually a real 3 cap.
Yeah.
And it's like that they're just doing, you know, the income minus the mortgage, and then what's left over is your cap rate. And so I mean, this one is literally a 7.8, and it's cash flowing at a real $41,000 a year. And I mean, I don't know how much you need to live off, dude, but I can live on 41,000 a year. Like I know that I can. I spend like 2,000 a month max.
Dude, yeah, that's complete freedom, man. Complete.
Yeah, off one building. And I mean, this is like parlaying from a triplex into this building. And now I'm like 4 or 5 months into it. And I haven't even made payments out to myself yet, because as I just kind of let it stack. And I called them this morning, and they have a max amount of like $4,000 that you can send out at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, like that's not gonna work, because I've kind of let the money stack, and I have this members payment. It's just really a basic thing. And so we had $16,000 in the account to be paid out for, you know, the month through month. So this was only 3 months. So I literally initiated the transfer this morning of $13,000 to myself. And I was like, that's over 3 months. So this building, like I underwrote it so conservatively, and it's performing better than what we thought. And it's just like, you know, the 13 divided by 3, it's like $4,300 a month. Like that's more than my job's paying me. And I'm an 80% owner in this building. I actually brought in two partners, um, and
Nice.
they brought in like 50 grand each. And
Nice.
we want to do deals in the future. So I was like, well, let me bring you in on this one that I have right now. And so I promised them like an 8% cash on cash return, and then like a 15 to 17% internal rate of return,
Yep.
which is what these investors want. And if you can give them that, they'll give you the money you need.
Oh yeah.
And so far, we've been doing 10 to 11% returns, cash on cash returns, which are huge, and like 20 to 25% internal rate of returns, which is great.
Wow.
And so, I mean, if I can keep this up, and so we can do 13,000 every 3 months, you times it by 4, I would make 52,000 just in my portion, and then you divide that by the amount I put down, which is 260, and I'm making a 20% cash on cash return, and that's not including, the debt pay down and the appreciation of the building. And so,
Oh yeah.
the idea is in 5 years, we paid 1.3. In 5 years, the building's worth 1.7, and it's like we're all gonna either we're going to make our money plus half of it back and then all the cash flow, or we're going to double our money and then have made all the cash flow along the way. And you can start to see how it just becomes such a lucrative little spot to be in, right?
Oh, that's absolutely insane, man. I mean, if you think about that, and it's almost like, you could fully just live off that if like that. That is ridiculous to think about for how
If you
well it's
and
performing.
yeah, sorry that I've been talking so much. It's
Oh,
just such a,
I'm loving it.
yeah, there it's such a long story. But things that I've learned, man, I mean, buying a single family home was more difficult than buying this 24 unit apartment building.
Hmm.
And that sounds wild, but when I bought like I have a few single family homes that I've bought before, and I mean they want your past pay stubs, they want your tax return, they want to check your credit, they want to just make sure everything is up to par.
Yep.
When I went to buy this building, they're like, does the building perform at a 1.25 debt coverage? Is the building full? Like let's look at the tenants and the payments that are coming in. And as long as the building can perform to cover the debt, like they didn't even run my credit. They didn't ask how much I made. And it was like I asked them about it. I was like, you guys want to know? And they're like, we really have no interest because I mean you're not making this payment with your 9 to 5 job, right?
Wow.
And it was just such an eye opener because it's like this is how people are getting into these 100 unit buildings. Is like if you get a good deal and the building can pay for itself, and you have the money behind you, which you don't even have to bring, you can bring from investors or whatever, then you can get into these buildings. And it's just such an incredible thing that when people like you look, I follow a lot of real estate people, and they all talk about you can use other people's money and you don't need credit and you don't need any of this. And it's like you do need knowledge. Like if you can dive into this and you can find properties like this, like I know if I were to find this property today but double the size and double the price and it performed how this one does, I could get an equity position of probably 30% with none of my own money, and I would just bring in 2 or 3 investors to bring their money in. And it's like as long as they're getting that return that they want, they could care less how much money you're making.
Dude,
I
I'll
mean,
do it.
yeah, like they want to protect their capital, and it's like basically you're like, hey, I'm going to find the deal, I'm going to put it together, because there's a lot of work, dude. The front load amount of work that you have to do to make sure this is a good deal is substantial, but it's worth it because it's like you're going to make 2 to 3 grand a month and have none of your own money in, and then in 5 years when you go to sell and there's 500,000 in equity to split and you get 30% of that. I mean, I don't know how much that is. That was
That
just
sounds beautiful.
incredible.
I think it's like almost under 50K around there.
150,000. So
Yep.
you would get 2,000 a month for finding the deal, and then in 5 years you're going to get a check for 150 grand with none of your own money in. And it's like that's insane. And a lot of these people just keep trading kind of up and up and up. Let me see
Yeah,
here.
just new units, bigger,
Yeah, they just go bigger, and it's just like
and they
you
start
kind of
building
figure
them.
it out and make it happen. Let me see if this will open.
That's the craziest part to me is when I see like a big apartment, like a stretch of apartments, and then you see more being built right next to it in the same style. and you're like, oh man, this guy's like just branching out his real estate condos or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's so nuts.
Well, see, there's this building, and there's actually apartment buildings are kind of clustered together for some reason.
Yeah.
But I had this video done, and before I bought, or after I closed on it, and I sent it to the investors just to kind of really show them what was going on. But it's like this happens to be in the best part of town, which is great. I mean, you go a block or two over, and it's like that's where these $800,000 houses are at. And for this market, 800,000 is like, I mean, the pinnacle. You're living in a $3,000 huge house. These are the insides of the units, dude. Like, I would live in this thing. This thing is sweet.
Oh yeah.
Just clean. It's got this like little dog park thing. I mean, this building had been or has been completely remodeled. So they kind of sucked out a lot of the, the forced appreciation you can do, which is really the gameplay. But I mean, for one of my first buildings, like this is, I'm happy to be here.
That is so wild, man. Well, I'm super impressed. Number one, your age, right, with what you're doing and how you're able to take your first triplex and then move up homes, then eventually sell those, buy the unit, right? And you got to live in them, right? Which is one
Yeah,
of the coolest things.
I lived in it the whole, like, along the way, the whole time, and it was great. And I mean, I think now, like, I rent a room for my buddy. It's actually the basement, and it's sweet, and I pay $600 a month. And I'm really in this phase of my life where I'm like, dude, I'm gonna like cut all my expenses. I really want to leave my job and jump full force into becoming an agent and wholesaling and investing full time.
Yep.
And I'm really trying to do that. And so I'm like, dude, I can literally just live here, and I'm young enough to where it's like it really doesn't matter. And you get,
Yep.
you get one or two more of these buildings, and my whole like why reason is like I live in Seattle, and this building is halfway across the country in Illinois. And truth be told, you, this building is easier to manage than my two other ones because I'm not doing anything. I have a good a management company that I vetted, and I call them maybe every other week. And then any expense under $500, they can just fix. Anything over 500, they have to call me. And it's really that simple. And the reason I don't have to worry about it is because I bought it at such a good price. I knew my numbers, and I've accounted for expenses. And so if these expenses don't come up, that just adds to your cash flow. And so that's great. You go in here knowing what you're going to get and if it works for you, and then you can really let the management company do their job. And it's awesome.
That is so next level. Seriously, like I'm super impressed by just that whole you like step laddered your way. It was like triplex. Then I got these two houses on the property. Then I sold one, like moved the money over. Now I have 24 units. Like
Yeah.
your next level is gonna be like I bought the moon. Like
Yeah.
like it's really
Yeah.
crazy. It's like where do you even go from 24? It's like now you gotta buy a whole condo, like just
Dude,
buy the whole street. Like it's
now that
crazy.
I'm in this 24-plex, and it seemed like such a big feat. And once you start to get into bigger buildings like this, like if this building was 50 units instead of 24, the same amount of work would have gone into it.
Oh yeah.
Which is crazy because it's like when you buy, like say you buy a 4-unit building, the same amount of work is going to go into buying that 4-unit building that goes into buying that 10-unit building, because they're the same exact thing. So it's like you're going to have to get the loan and make sure it cash flows and look at all the expenses. And it's like if there's 5 or 10 more units, it doesn't add any more work to it. And so that's why people jump into buildings like this, and then they're like 150-unit building, like they just make these huge jumps because it's like it's the same thing. So if I were to go from, if you went from a duplex to a 4-unit, it's like you just doubled your units, and you would be comfortable doing that because you're like it's just double. Like if I were to go from this 24 to 48,
Yep.
it'd be no big deal. I'd be like it's just double, and then 48 doubled again, and it's just like it really becomes to where you get comfortable with it. And one of the cool parts, if you get a loan over $1 million, you can get a bank to give you a non-recourse loan, which means that if for some reason you can't pay it, they can't come over after your like personal assets.
Oh, nice.
All they could do is take the building, which I mean, you're going to have 25% equity in from your down payment. So you could obviously lose a lot of money,
Definitely.
but it would be limited to that loss. So it's like they can't go after your personal house or your other assets or anything like that. And I mean, now that I figured out like you set up LLCs and that gets paid to me, like I'm protected. Like if whatever happens there really can't come back to any of the personal things that I own.
Yep.
Um, but with that said, I mean, we stay on top of everything. I mean, you provide good service and a clean environment for people, and they're gonna stay and pay rent and really make it easy for you.
Oh, 100%, man. I'm super impressed by it. And we've been chatting for, I think, like, probably 50 minutes now, maybe
Yeah.
a little less. But
It's a story, man. I knew it would take a little bit.
no, I absolutely love the story. And I want to bring you back on down the road. If we've touched on everything you want to touch on
Yeah,
today.
that's everything I got.
Great. So I'd love to bring you back on and continue to dive deep into this. And of course, we'll talk about your inspirations, books you've read, kind of what got you in that mindset, of course, at such a young age too, to want to pursue that, like what your underlying drivers were, because that's what, and you talked about the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And that was
Mhm.
the first book that I read when I was 18. I just turned 21
Nice.
in March. So when I was 18, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And even though I wasn't implementing everything the book was saying like right away, it changed my perspective and I became more patient and just got to see how assets work for you.
Mhm.
And stuff like that is just so cool when I see other people doing it too. And just the fact that, there's a lot of talk in real estate, right? It's people are like, "Well, I'm going to get into real estate." That's what my
Yeah,
dad
and they just
does.
couldn't
My
solve all
dad
the
told me to.
problems.
Yep,
Like,
like,
there's no effort and you have to put in.
oh yeah, it's ridiculous. They're just like, yeah, I'm gonna flip houses. And then I say, how are you gonna flip houses? They're like, well, I'm gonna do it. Like 5 years. And I'm like, well, what's your plan? They're like, oh, I'm just gonna flip it. Like,
Literally, yeah, they have like no clue at all what it takes, and it's just like, dude, you come in here just like anything. You go in and you don't
yeah,
really know what it takes, and it's like that's where these mentors come in, and it's such a crucial part. And anytime I want to learn something that I don't know about,
yep,
I mean I'll buy a course. I'm one of those people where I was like I'm never gonna buy a course, and now I'm like, dude, I'm buying someone's $500 course. Like if it's someone that I look at their Instagram and I reach out to other people and they've done it and it's worked for them and there's value behind it and I see it other places, I'm like, dude, this is what you want to know. Like pay to get that knowledge. It's so worth it. I think at this point I've spent over 100,000 on just courses, but it's like it's courses I've vetted and it's courses that have returned that amount
yep.
way more. I mean, I wouldn't take back the course that I spent 30 grand to get this place ever. I mean, it parlayed me into this, and then it's going to be knowledge that I'm going to take forward into every other one that I get into the future.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear, man. I think that's the thing, right? Like it's worth it. You're investing in yourself and your education. 30,000, like what are the chances? That's like what college is a year for some people.
Yeah, I didn't
30,000.
even go to college, bro. I did put the last $10,000 on my Chase Sapphire card, so I got 700 points of travel. I actually do. I applied for the card. I was like, hey guys, we gotta wait. I'm trying to go to Hawaii. And she's like, all right, we can wait till next week. And I applied, got the card, and put all of it on the card. And I broke like that $5,000 limit you had to spend and
Oh,
got
that's
the free
funny.
travel.
That is awesome. And you're like, wow, you're off to Hawaii with my Chase points. Shout out Chase.
Right? The
That's
chase
awesome.
points and the cash flow, dude. That's gonna be the whole trip, all covered for by this.
The entire thing. Well, that's fantastic, man. I appreciate you sharing all this stuff too, Chance. And I'm gonna link your TikTok and your Instagram in my video down in the description. So, of course, if you want to shout your handles out now, you can do that too. Or if there's any other places to find you that you think would be beneficial for people.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It's kind of where I'm most active, and it's going to be Investor Chantz, and Chantz is spelled Chantz, and then it's going to be the same on TikTok. Feel free to reach out anytime, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has about real estate.
Oh, it's perfect. I mean, I would love to, bring you on and consistently do uploads like I do with all the other traders, and then you could be the real estate guy and have everybody, looking up to you for all your advice. Because seriously, I've yet to find. I mean, you and my uncle, of course, anybody else that's as like real with it, right? And just all where like they understand like what you're saying, 6%, even 8%, 3% returns on your money year after year. But look at the cash flow, look at what this is generating and what you can do and how you can really up the game. And it's not just like, hi, my name's Chance. I house flipped in a week, made 30 grand. you know, like just,
Just no valid information, dude.
yeah.
I don't know. I hear people that'll get into real estate, flip one house, make 20 grand, and then it's like they present themselves, and they do it on Instagram all the time, as like this, this force to be reckoned with in it. And it's like, dude, you got lucky one time. Like, do it 10 times and then show me.
Yep.
And that's another thing that I think I should focus on. Is like, when you reach out to buy these courses from people, or reach out to talk to someone, make sure they've done what you want to do. If someone has bought, they bought one duplex, and like they bought a house and then they bought a duplex, like, don't go buy a course from them. They don't know. They're going to tell you what everyone else is telling you, but it's like, until they do it 5 or 10 times over, then buy it. And it's like, now that I've bought this, like, I'm not going to listen to someone that owns anything under 50 units, because it's like, I know I could get to 50 units. I know I can do it. But it's like the guy that owns, 200 to 500 units all day, dude. I'm buying your course. We're going to figure this out, and I'm going to get there. And you got to keep looking for it and find these people that are really where you want to be, and take information from them.
Dude, spot on, 100%. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. We should probably end the recording here, and
Cool.
so I can have you back on, whenever you're ready. And this was awesome. I feel like I learned like way more, and I still got to read the book. I don't know if you've ever read. Is it Buy, Rehab, Refinance, Rent? Like the
Yeah,
Burr.
the Burr
Yeah.
method. I actually have a Burr shirt and I almost wore it. The Burr method, anything from Bigger Pockets, dude. If you guys want to learn about real estate, that's where I started. Listen to all their podcasts, read all their books. Everything they have is relevant, new information that is applicable right now.
Gosh, that's awesome. It's going to be everything from us, guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, check the links in the description. I know it's a real estate video, but we have all the stock stuff that we've been rocking and rolling with. And Chance is also part of the Discord too, and he's been loving it. And we'll dive deeper into that in the next video. So it's going to be everything, but I appreciate you coming on, man.
Rad, man. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to next time here.
Awesome. All right. Take care, guys.